Welcome to episode 7, the Health and Well-being for the Building Green 2022, the digital conference. Building Green is a flagship campaign for PHILGBC events and consists of year-round activities that encourage participation in the green building advocacy. I am Mario Suelto with the PHILGBC National Secretariat, and I am today's facilitator. Thank you to the PHILGBC Board of Trustees for initiating this event. Our chair, Mr. Edgar Sabidong, Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer, Arthalan Corporation. Vice Chair, Mr. Wena Ramos, Principal of Ecotectonica. Our Secretary, Ms. Elizabeth Mendoza, Managing Director for Monarchy Construction Philippines. Our Treasurer, Mr. Raymond Rufino, CEO of NEO. And the members of the board, Ms. Catherine Ilagan, President and COO of Philinvest Alabang. Mr. Felino Palafox Jr., Principal of Palafox Associates, Mr. Hener Liwanag, Junior Partner of GFN Partners Architects, Mr. Luis Chamon, Country Manager of Sangoban Philippines, Ms. Audrey Belpo, Managing Director of World Home Depot, Mr. Francisco Arellano, Consultant for Manila Water Services, and Mr. Gabriel Maria Angelo Cascante. I would also like to acknowledge the CEO of the PhilGBC, Mr. Christopher De La Cruz, the Executive Director, Ms. Maria Ana Tungol, and the PhilGBC National Secretariat for organizing this conference. We would like to thank our members and sustaining corporate sponsors that support the programs of the PhilGBC and for making our activities possible. Our diamond sustaining sponsor, NEO, our gold sustaining sponsor, Wall Vision Corporation, and our silver sustaining sponsors, Arthalan Corporation, Daikin Air Conditioning Philippines, Ecotectonica, Firefly Electric and Lighting, GFN Partners Architects, Gigatech, KPI Elevators, Monocrete Construction Philippines, Sangoban Philippines, SMCC Philippines, Surface Repair Solutions, and World Home Depot. We would also like to thank our BG2022 strategic partners for their support in making this Building Green Conference 2022 possible. Our Diamond Sustaining sponsor and National Secretariat sponsor, NEO. Our Gold Sustaining sponsor, Wall Vision Corporation. Our BG2022 Gold Strategic Partners, Aboitiz Infra Capital Economic Estates, and City Homes Builder and Development. Our BG 2022 Silver Strategic Partners, First Balfour, Daikin Air Conditioning Philippines, and Wall Vision Corporation. And our BG 2022 Bronze Strategic Partners, AGC Asia Pacific, Botanica Nature Residences, Philinvest City, Datem Incorporated, FPD Asia Property Services, and Monocrete Construction Philippines. Before we continue, please be reminded of the following event guidelines. This webinar will be recorded by the PhilGBC National Secretariat for documentation purposes. We encourage your active participation during the event. You may ask your questions using the question box in the GoToWebinar panel. Questions that you will raise will be addressed during the discussion periods. Upon request, an electronic certificate of attendance will be issued by the PhilGBC National Secretariat to your registered email address, provided you are present for more than 50% of the allotted time for each session. You have completed the feedback survey, which will be sent to your registered email address after the event, and you have requested a copy of your certificate through events@philgbc.org. We continue with our celebration of the World Green Building Week 2022 with this year's theme, Building for Everyone, for the Planet, Communities, and the Economy. And for this episode, the health and well-being, we will showcase current tools and programs that affect the health and well-being of users in buildings. Our two project proponents that participated in the pilot implementation of the H&W tool will be presenting this episode. Their participation in the pilot helped in the development of the tool and the usability of the system before finalizing the first version of the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings. Mr. Raymond Rufino, Treasurer of the PhilGBC Board of Trustees and Chief Executive Officer of NEO, the biggest developer and manager of office buildings in Bonifacio Global City, will be sharing their experience. NEO's portfolio has been recognized as the world's first Edge Zero Carbon portfolio, first office portfolio in the Southeast Asia to achieve WELL Health Safety Seal, bear the 5-star certification for operations for all buildings, and advancing Net Zero Philippines 5-star and Net Zero Energy certification for all buildings. Mr. Rufino serves in the board and executive committees of the PhilGBC, Arise Philippines, YPO Philippines and Southeast Asia region, and the Urban Land Institute, where he is also a global governing trustee. Ms. Apple Sindiongco de los Reyes is a design architect and a brand and project development manager for the Botanica Nature Residences of Philinvest Alabang. Botanica Nature Residences Tower 1 is a Verde 4-star certified project. With her over 10 years of experience in her architectural practice, she ensures to put premium on user experience and the way people interact with the built product, especially under her previous post in the development of the PHILGBC brand. After each of the project, we will have time to ask our speakers questions on their health and well-being strategies for their building projects. After which, I will be presenting an overview of the new PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings version 1. Undersecretary Lilibeth David of the Department of Health will be presenting updates from the department on their programs. Dr. David has been working for more than 30 years in the health sector and is currently the lead of the Health Policy and Infrastructure Development team. Her office provides technical leadership and advice on health policy, research, quality assurance, legislative relations, external affairs, and overall strategic directions on health facility development of the department. She is integrally involved in the performance, monitoring, and evaluation of the Philippine Department of Health's programs and projects. We will also hear about health and well-being products and services available in the market. Mr. Jeroen van Straten, founder of Indoor Care, will be presenting their technologies that will help in improving the indoor environment health of buildings. Ms. Veronica Villanueva, lighting design professional, will be shedding light on lighting design. With her more than 30 years of architectural practice, she has a comprehensive experience in sustainable design and lighting design. She is currently completing her master's in architecture major in construction technology management in the Technological University of the Philippines. She is an architect, environmental planner, interior designer, and a certified Verde professional. We will be opening the floor for questions after their presentations, and you may send your questions for our speakers using the question box, and they will be addressed during the open forum. Ms. Audrey Po, member of the Board of Trustees of the PhilGBC, will be delivering this episode's closing remarks. For our first presentation, let us welcome Mr. Raymond Rufino, Chief Executive Officer of NEO. Mr. Rufino.
Thank you, Mario, and good morning, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. I'd like to thank the PhilGBC for giving me an opportunity to speak today and go through some of our experience in piloting the health and well-being rating tool. So on that note, I have a lot of information to share and a lot of ground to cover, so we're going to get started. So can we move to the next slide, please? So let's start with why health and well-being. I think for many of us in the real estate industry, it's a very, very challenging time. If you're a real estate developer, you constantly face pressure to be on time, on budget, on quality. Then you're thinking about maybe getting certifications like Verde or LEED. And then here comes yet another rating tool such as this, which is health and well-being, right? So it's yet another area to think about, another area that's going to take up time and energy. Same applies if you're already a real estate owner. You have empty or vacant spaces. It's a tough time negotiating with tenants or occupants. You have a difficult time collecting, receivables. You have all of this compliance that you have to think about, and then you have this health and well-being rating tool, which goes on top of all of that. So I think it's very important to start off today's discussion with really asking ourselves, why do we need to pay attention to health and well-being. Next slide, please. And in order to explain why we chose to be a pilot partner for health and well-being, for the health and well-being rating tool of the PhilGBC, I need to first explain who we are, right? So NEO is an owner, developer, and manager of 7 office buildings in the Bonifacio Global City, from our first building, 1 NEO, up to our latest building, 7 NEO. Next slide, please. We are longtime believers in certifications, not only as tools for the assessment of the performance of our buildings, but also as powerful roadmaps for the transformation of our industry towards green, healthy, net zero, and resilient buildings for all. So, you know, for us, certifications are important, they're great, but not only for ourselves, right? Having a certification is great in order to assess how well your building performs in specific areas. But more importantly, certifications, the reason why we believe so much in certifications, and also the PhilGBC believes so much in certifications, is because each certification provides a roadmap, right? For every single owner, developer, or manager to think about, what do I need to do, or what do I need to focus on for my building? It's very difficult in life. We have so many priorities. Sometimes we don't know where to start, what to do, what to prioritize. Certifications and rating tools provide you that roadmap or that framework, so they can be very, very powerful. And really, that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to work all together, not just us as NEO, not just the office building developers, not just the industry associations such as PhilGBC, but I think as the entire real estate industry, in order to combat climate change and prevent climate catastrophe, the key for us is really to achieve the big goal, which is green, healthy, net zero, and resilient buildings for everyone. Next slide, please. We have been a supporter and partner of the Philippine Green Building Council since it started back in 2007. And as part of our conviction in the importance and impact of certifications, we have been a pilot partner for pretty much every rating tool that the PhilGBC has developed. So we were a pilot partner for Verde when Verde was first launched. We were a pilot partner for Advancing Net Zero when that rating tool for promoting net zero energy was also launched. Our family is involved in a data center project which we are now building. That's not part of NEO, but with a joint venture with a partner called Digital Edge. And we are also piloting the first ever Verde rating tool for a data center. And so it was very natural for us to think about partnering when the opportunity came to pilot and partner with the PhilGBC on the health and well-being rating tool. We naturally wanted to participate and support, and also be able to focus on this very critical area of our buildings. So this year we piloted the health and well-being rating tool with our 5 NEO building, which is, like as I mentioned, in BGC. I'd also like to share today, if you allow me, I'd like to share that we are very proud that we have already received our results of our certification for 5 NEO. And out of a maximum 5 stars, we're very happy to share that we have achieved 4 stars for our 5 NEO buildings. So I want to congratulate my team, G. Garcia and Verge, and the rest of our team members at NEO who worked very hard to get us this 4-star rating for our 5 NEO building. Next slide, please. So these are just some of the organizations we support through our membership. And again, we remain very committed. Whether it's a commitment to net zero, we're very proud that we were one of the few Philippine companies and developers to make net zero commitments early on. Our original net zero commitment was for 2025, and by partnering with the PhilGBC on the Advancing Net Zero program, and also with IFC for the Edge Zero Carbon certification, we're also very proud to share that last year we were able to achieve net zero status for all 7 buildings, well ahead of our original 2025 commitment. And I think we just want to be able to enlighten everyone that when people talk about net zero, everyone thinks it's so difficult, it's so challenging. Is this something we will do in 2030, 2040, 2050? And I want you all to know, speaking from our own experience, that net zero is doable. You can do it with existing buildings. It does not require massive amounts of capital. It just requires committed, passionate people who will dedicate the time and energy in order to pursue net zero. And that's really what we need to do as an industry. We need to focus on, these big targets. It's not enough for us to just say we will think about it, we will plan for it. We need to commit and take action. And that is one of the themes, I guess, for World Green Building Week, which we are also celebrating this week. So on that note, happy World Green Building Week to everyone. Next slide, please. As an owner, manager, and developer of office buildings, we really had to take a pause during the pandemic. We had to think about what is it that is really essential and critical for us as we think about moving forward. The pandemic was such a difficult time for everyone, right? It was really so difficult. So I think this ties back to the question of why health and well-being, right? So you saw earlier that yes, we want to support the PHILGBC and want to be a pilot partner. So that's one reason why we chose to do it. But there is a much deeper reason for us to choose to support health and well-being. And I think this is what I'd like to take a little bit of time today to explain, because we took a pause, we tried to reflect and dig deep and really think about our sort of philosophy and our approach when we want to look at our office buildings, right? As you know, many of the press during the pandemic were always saying, oh, office buildings are dead. We can say goodbye to offices. No one's going to come to offices anymore. Everyone's going to want to work from home, from the beach, from the cafe. And so, people all over the world, a lot of the media were saying, oh, looks like offices are going to be historical places where people no longer go. But deep down inside, we knew that was not going to be the case. We knew that was not true. And so we had to think, how do we ensure that office buildings within this, situation of the world we're in today, this new normal in a post-pandemic, how do we ensure that our office buildings remain relevant? So this is what we developed as what we call our foundation. So if you look at any building, you start from your foundation at the bottom and you build upwards. It's the same thing in our philosophy. We are starting with a core foundation and building upwards in terms of what we are prioritizing for our business, right? So it starts at the bottom with safety, security, and resilience. It is so important, and this is probably the most basic priority area every building owner needs to focus on. You need to make sure that everyone who works and comes and visits your building is safe and secure, and that your building is resilient in the event of any risks or any natural disasters that might happen, right? So I think this is basic. Everyone knows this. This is where we all have to start, because if your building is not safe, if your building is not secure, basic, dun pa lang, the users will not want to come and be in your building. But that's really just the first step. It's really just the basic building block that we start with, right? So the next is really what we call the health and well-being priority. So beyond just being safe and secure, can our buildings now actually contribute to the health and well-being of the people who live, work, and play in them? And as a long-time participant and a long-time advocate for green buildings, we've always known that green buildings are good not only for the environment, but for the people who live, work, and play in these buildings, right? So when we go for a green building and support, commitment to go green, you are not only doing good for the environment, you're really doing good for the people. And so the next layer is, okay, let's try to focus on promoting and enhancing that health and well-being. Now, when you're able to provide those first two layers of, is the building safe, secure, resilient? Can I promote, by being a green building, the health and well-being of everyone? What you next can focus on, and what we focus on, is building a community, right? For us, we have this hashtag, the NEOI campaign, which has been an industry-leading platform for building a community for all of our tenants. Through various free activities and events, we work hard to make sure our tenants feel they are part of a dynamic community that balances both life and work, right? So you start to build on that. Now, if you're able to get these first three priorities established or going, right, and then the next effect or the next priority you want to look at is productivity, right? So if people are coming to your building, they are safe, secure, it's a resilient building, you are enhancing and promoting their health and well-being, you are making them feel like they are part of a community. then what we're able to really do is provide an environment that really creates more productive people. And when you think about the office space, that's ultimately the critical factor, right? Is a person working at home, at the beach, or in that cafe going to be more productive than in the office space, right? And so that's we as landlords and developers, excuse me, have to really work hard to make sure that the office is relevant because people who work in the office at the end of the day are being more productive, right? And being productive in the office just doesn't happen by accident. It takes work, it takes effort for us to build up to that stage. So if you're able now to say that the office is helping to make the employees and the workers more productive, then we hit the ultimate, the top of the foundation, right? The ultimate goal is really to help the companies who are our tenants achieve their own positive purpose, right? Every organization has a purpose that they are aspiring for. We as landlords need to look beyond just providing four walls, aircon, windows, floor and ceiling. That's the old idea of just providing a physical office space. The challenge for us landlords is if we truly want to be relevant, if we truly want to be successful moving forward, we need to be able to convince our tenants and our locators that we are also their partners, that by partnering with us, we can help them achieve their purpose, whatever that purpose is, whatever that objective is, we can help them achieve that for their organization by delivering spaces that ultimately have more productive staff, more productive workers, and help the organization better achieve its purpose and its goals, right? So the reason why I took a little bit of time to explain this is because health and well-being is as a critical component of this foundation. That's one of the reasons why we chose to pilot this rating tool, because without this health and well-being component, this stack, this foundation does not work. You cannot reach the top without building and investing and delivering on each of these building blocks along the way. Next slide, please. So here are different core values, and I'm not going to read and explain all of them to all of you. You can just read it on the screen. But the one I would like to just take a little bit of moment to highlight is well-being. So well-being is in fact one of our Neo Way values. It is something we hold near and dear. So not only is it part of our philosophy of priorities that we're going for the building, it is almost one of the key corporate values that we want all of our employees and teams to live out every single day and really commit to ensuring that we have a safe and healthy lifestyle for all. Next slide, please. So when we talk about the health and well-being rating tool, we're really looking here at operational health and well-being. And why do I say that? 5 Neo was completed in 2009. It's not a new office building. It was not built with all of the knowledge we have today about what makes a building really healthy or really promote well-being. But we did work very hard on a lot of operational interventions, policies, programs, and investments, excuse me, in order to develop the operational health and well-being of the building. So the message I want to share here is that when we look about the health and well-being rating tool, it's not just for new buildings. What's important for us is we have so many existing buildings, and let's not only think about this rating tool in the context of a building new, but all of our current buildings can get rated for health and well-being. And as I mentioned earlier, we were able to achieve 4 stars, which shows that with operational interventions and commitment, any building can achieve a good level of performance when it comes to health and well-being. Next slide, please. So what did we focus on? I'll just go into more practical areas now. Improving air quality and ventilation. Again, this is one of the major areas that during the pandemic was top of mind for everyone. You really have to focus on improving your air quality and ventilation. That's one of the basic areas of where you can deliver very, very strong impact, right? So indoor air quality testing is very important. We do that with a partner, IAQ Philippines. We deployed air purifiers and bipolar ionizers, and of course, we manage mold and moisture, which is a challenge for for a lot of buildings, and we test and check to see whether we have mold and moisture issues. I think one of the key things I'd like to mention here, you all know the famous saying, you can't manage what you don't measure. And so indoor air quality testing, testing for mold, these are tests that many building owners do not do. It's I think the most basic thing that we all need to start doing. If there's one thing that you can all start doing tomorrow, start testing your buildings, because if you don't know your baseline or how your buildings are performing, there is no way you're going to be able to improve on that. You're flying blind, so to speak. So I encourage, if you don't even want to commit to rating, at least get your buildings. I encourage you to start with, if you tested. Next slide, please. Next area is water quality maintenance. This is very important to have your air water quality maintenance in place. So again, I'm talking about potability. Monthly and annual testing for potability and Legionella are some very basic things that you can do. Again, you're flying blind if you're not testing your potability and your potential risk from Legionella. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we also focus on is the NEOA community engagement. So it's not just about having, physical interventions. What's very important is also to focus on the soft side, as we say. It's very important to have activities that build that community, that try to create and foster that environment where people feel that they belong. So here we do a lot of these activities. Pre-pandemic, we were doing about 60 events a year. A lot of that shifted to virtual, but now we're starting to ramp up again into more activities and more events. So things like coastal cleanup or donating or supporting schools. There's a lot that you can do. In fact, the rating tool itself has certain parameters and points for community activities, programs, and events. So this is something that I think is also very important. Very often we focus on just doing the physical, installing things or investing in things, but let's not forget the importance of activating that community, whatever community you're in. It's so important to activate that community and get them involved in the effort towards promoting health and well-being. Next slide, please. What are the benefits of the health and well-being rating tool? So let's take a look at this, and I just tried to distill this down. So I think there are three major benefits of getting rated for this tool. First, you have a community of healthy and productive building occupants. I think everyone acknowledges that it's our responsibility to make sure that people are as healthy and as well as possible, especially if they are in our buildings, right? So I think by securing a health and well-being rating for your building, you're able to give that assurance to all of the people in your building that you are putting in the effort to provide a community of healthy and productive people, right? Second, it offers a facts-based framework and a roadmap for implementing projects, policies, and procedures. Again, it is very difficult sometimes for project teams to be able to figure out, where do I start? Do I do this program? Do I invest in this particular item? Do I create this kind of policy? It's very challenging to figure out where to begin and what to prioritize. So the health and well-being rating tool, if you look at it, very clearly lays out where the points are. So for your team on the ground, it's very easy for them to identify what they want to prioritize, what they want to focus on, what are the points that they are going to pursue or not pursue, and everything flows from that. So it becomes like your map or your guide in terms of implementing a health and well-being commitment, right? And I think lastly, it provides third-party validation. It's so important, I think, in our industry that we are able, when we say that we promote and are committed to the health and well-being of the people in our buildings, it can't just be me Raymond Rufino, developer and owner, saying that, right? Because every owner and developer is going to say, we've seen this in the green building movement, right? Every building owner and manager and developer is going to say, my building is green, because it's very bad publicity to say your building is not green, or to say that your building does not promote health and well-being, right? But we need to combat, the potential for greenwashing and ensure that when we say this, that it's really backed up. It's really supported by facts and by real data and real commitment. And that third-party validation is really the best way for the market and for people to know that when you say that you are committed to health and well-being, you truly are. Next slide, please. So what have we learned during this process, right? So again, I try to distill this down into a couple of items in terms of our key learnings, right? So I think the first one is intentionality is key. Oh, excuse me. Intentionality is key. Health and well-being performance is not going to happen by accident, right? You need to be intentional. You need to take commitment. You need to take action. And therefore, you really need to have, whether it's the uppermost management or the owners or the project stakeholders, need to really be intentional and committed to embarking on this journey to promote and enhance the health and well-being of our buildings, right? Second, mere compliance is not enough. We need to go above and beyond, because many of our managers and many of our operational teams are unfortunately focused merely on compliance. They just want to do the bare minimum, whether it's ordinances from the LGU, compliance with national laws or regulation, or even if you're in an estate, just complying with the estate rules. Compliance, don't get me wrong, is very important. It's very critical, but that is almost the given for all of us in the industry. What is required now is for us to go above and beyond just mere compliance and really aspire for greater levels of performance, especially when we look at something as critical and as urgent as the health and well-being of people, right? Next, location and amenities are powerful. So it's not just what you do in the building, but even just the basic tenets of real estate, where location is so key, right? So choosing a location that is close to amenities, that is close to public transport, that facilitates mobility. For example, if within your community there are bike lanes that promote active mobility, or there are amenities nearby that encourage people to walk or to jog or to move around, those are all very, very important. So never discount that. Even something as simple as, does your location have access to healthy food options, is something that we don't think about every day. I mean, nothing against the fast food, the fast food outlets that proliferate in many of our buildings, but sometimes we have to also think about, can we provide the people who live, work, and play in our developments access to healthier options, right? Is there fresh produce or even healthier options available to people beyond just fast food, right? And last and very important is work with partners. So I'm sure Jeroen and Walter, our friends from IAQ Philippines, are here. They do a lot of our testing and help us with a lot of our programs in trying to pursue and enhance health and well-being. You can't do all of this on your own. So I highly encourage you to look at partners who have the expertise, experience, and skills to be able to do some of these specialized work that is really important in achieving those better levels of performance. Next slide. And I'd like to just end with this final three messages from my end before we go to the Q&A. And these are really the core messages I want to leave you all today with. Number one, health and well-being is our responsibility. When I say our, I mean everyone's responsibility, not just the manager, not just the building owner, not just the tenant, not just the security. Everybody in our industry needs to take responsibility for health and well-being, because this affects us all and is so important in our future, right? If we If there's one thing we learned from this pandemic, it really is that no matter how successful you are, no matter what you're able to achieve, if you do not have health, if you do not have your well-being, you're not going to be able to enjoy all of that. So health and well-being is our communal responsibility, right? From top to bottom in every single organization. Number two, our buildings can and should promote health and well-being. So, you know, I know for many building owners and developers and managers, as I mentioned earlier, it's such a difficult time. We're being pushed and pulled in so many different directions to think about so many different things and so many other priorities. But let us not forget that our buildings are powerful, powerful opportunities for us to promote health and well-being, right? There are a lot of things that individuals can do on their own to improve their own health and well-being, but imagine how much time we spend in our buildings every day. Most of us spend a majority of our times in our buildings. If our buildings can promote our health and well-being, imagine the quality of life improvement for all of us. Our health and well-being will be better across the board. And last but not least, I'd like to invite everyone to please let's get all of our buildings rated for health and well-being. This is a brand new rating tool as a pilot partner. We went through it. It's a fantastic tool, a fantastic roadmap. It's very robust. We highly encourage everyone to really look at this brand new rating tool. You can go to the PHILGBC website to check it out. Have your teams review it, study it. Please join us in really promoting our buildings as opportunities to promote health and well-being for every single person that comes and works and lives in our buildings. Thank you all for your attention today, and then we can now proceed to Q&A.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rufino. For our discussion, we have a couple of questions here with us. With Since the impact to our users and employees is an integral part of the new health and well-being tool, especially with your experience with indoor environment quality through your BERDE certification of your project, and of course with your well health safety seal, and now with your health and well-being certification for your building. What has been insights that you've learned from feedback from your tenants and from your employees as you've implemented health and well-being focused strategies for your buildings?
Yeah, thanks, Mario, for the question. I think so. The first thing I would say is that the nice thing about health and well-being is everyone is on board. Everyone is very, very supportive. The moment you talk about health and well-being, I think you will not find any group or any person who's going to say I don't support that, or I'm not going to help out, right? So it's great because the moment you say this is for the health and well-being, or our purpose is enhancing health and well-being, the support and buy-in of everyone is really quite wonderful and quite reassuring, right? But I'd like to, maybe on a more practical note, I think I'd like people to think about whether and it applies not only for health and well-being, but also for pursuing sustainability, whether that's green building or net zero. You want to look at things in sort of three different buckets, right? You have the physical, which is what can I do to my physical building, right? So you have this first bucket, which is maybe I need to invest in certain interventions, right? So for example, like I said, we provided, air purifiers and ionizers. So, okay, at the physical level, I need to invest in air purification technology. So that's a physical investment, right? But beyond just the physical, there are two more important buckets which you also need to do. The second bucket is policy, right? And you will be really surprised at how changing or modifying your building operational policies can have such a dramatic effect on people, right? So policies are very important. And again, policies, every building manager or owner creates their own policies. That is very much within your control. Trying to look at how you can modify your policies to promote health and well-being are very, very critical. And the last bucket there is really the programs, right? So you invested in the building, you've adjusted your policies. what programs can you do? I talk about programs, I talk about like things that we do, community-based activities, campaigns, whether it's involving your tenants or involving your stakeholders or even involving your community. What programs can you do to promote health and well-being? So that's the advice I would give many of our friends here who are listening today. Think about your efforts in those three buckets, right? It kind of makes it easier for you to analyze and to look at it when you say, I have physical things I can do for my building. There are policy things that I can do at the building, and there are programmatic or program related efforts that I can do for my building as well.
Thank you, Mr. Rufino. We know that NEO has been, I think, one sustainability is really a core part of your projects, exemplified by certifications that you've received throughout the years for your new buildings as well as your existing buildings at the time when these tools were not yet available. Um, how do you think can other project developers or other decision makers or even building management in overcoming the perceptions in the challenges in improving the performance, particularly for existing buildings?
Yeah, I think it really is a challenge. Thank you for that question. It is very difficult. It's like I said, right? For many people in our industry, they're already very stretched and very challenged with so much of the day-to-day of just the business of running, operating, and developing buildings, right? So, you know, there is a lot of hesitation and a lot of reservation about, oh, here's yet another area for me to focus or take on, right? So my suggestion really is come and reach out to us. So I'd like to open the invitation. If you are a building owner or manager and you would like to learn more about the experience, I mean, I shared a little bit of our experience, but if you'd like to learn more about our experience and we can also help you think about and go through it, we're happy to spend a little bit of time. My team and I can make ourselves available to just kind of share our own experience because we can do all of these theoretical presentations and show you endless PowerPoints and show you all these tools online. But sometimes nothing is more powerful than just speaking to someone who's gone through the process and done it, right? So I mean, talk to us, talk to other groups that have done it, talk to other people who have gone through that experience. I'm sure people who have taken that first step will be generous in providing their feedback, their experience, and sharing what they've learned and the challenges that they had to overcome. So where we are all here together as a network of people trying to do to transform our industry for the better. So we're all in this together. So reach out to us, connect with us. So I'm on LinkedIn for anyone who wants to connect and discuss more or reach out to me in LinkedIn. Our team members are also available on LinkedIn and would be happy to help anyone out there who needs support.
Thank you, Sir Raymond. Siguro for just to wrap up the discussion and speaking about your experience with the various health and well-being strategies that you've implemented for your buildings, what do you think is one best strategy you think had the biggest impact to your employees or to your tenants that you've implemented?
So here I know that this is a very common approach, right? Where everyone's looking for that one thing that one silver bullet that delivers the maximum impact at the lowest possible cost or effort, right? But if I really, and I know it's a bit of a, people might find it's a bit of a cop out, but I really believe the single biggest thing that we did was commit to getting certified. So for example, we were the first to get the WELL Health and Safety rating for our portfolio, right, in Southeast Asia. And so the action there was we are going to get the health and wellness, say the health and safety rating under WELL for all of the buildings. That was the decision. Because that singular decision and commitment then drove everything else, right? Because I want to move away from us being very just looking things in a very narrow way and trying to not look at things holistically, right? It's not just about saying, you know what, I want to do health and well-being fair. I'm going to just do one thing. I'm just going to do two things. I'm just going to do three things. The problem with that is it's not that simple. It will never be that simple as in just doing one, two, or three things. But what is important is committing to getting yourself rated or certified. Same thing with the health and well-being rating tool, right? It's one commitment. Simply say, we are going to get ourselves rated for the health and well-being rating, period. And then everything flows from there. Because if you look at a lot of these tools, there's no one aspect which receives so many more points than the others because they're all balanced because there are really so many different pathways and so many different priorities. I think, my message is let's try to be more holistic in our approach and not looking at just individual actions, but really look at things in their totality. Because, when we're talking about something as important as health and well-being, really what we need to achieve is health and well-being on multiple fronts. And that requires a you know a set of actions, right? And all of those actions can be driven by that singular commitment. So I know people out there looking for that just one or two thing that, oh yeah, this is a must do. But I really want to encourage people to look at everything in terms of being strategic and committing to getting yourself rated. Now, part of that, one of the things that I find most common among all of these rating tools, which if you'd ask me is something that everyone needs to do regardless of whether they get rated or not, is you need to have data. You need to measure the performance or the situation in your building. You need to measure the quality of your water. You need to measure the quality of your air. You need to measure what's happening in your building. If you are not measuring, then that is not so much a priority, but I would say that is a basic core requirement that every single building needs to do. So if you live, work, and play in a building that is not measuring the quality of your air and water today, you need to do what you can to make sure that starts tomorrow. Even if you don't commit to a rating tool, get your measurements done, get your baseline data done. Because if you don't start from there, you're never going to be able to truly improve on anything.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rufino, and congratulations for achieving your health and well-being 4-star certification for the 5 Neo project. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
So we'll now proceed with our next presentation. Let us welcome Ms. Apple Sinkyongkod de los Reyes from PhilInvest Alabang for her presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. I'm excited to share here our experience in participating in the Health and Well-Being Pilot Program, and also to take you through the introspection that occurred during the process. We were, after all, being evaluated. While our assessment mainly focused on the operational stage of Botanica, it was also vital to look at how it all started. When Filigree was created, there was a deliberate intent to set it apart from other luxury residential brands. Among the core values that were established were to build residential developments that are sustainable and resilient to change. Because for Filigree, modern luxury living means living in a well-designed, future-ready home. A home, firstly, that is built in a strategic location, in a complete township where essentials are conveniently within reach. As important, we design homes that can transcend time because it is built well and can adapt to multiple uses because of the generous spaces we have built into each unit. Also, we conceptualize homes that consider holistic balance by providing complete and well-appointed amenities. And then, most of all, a home that is surrounded and inspired by nature, because we strongly believe how important its connection is to our users' well-being, and Botanica Nature Residences perfectly encapsulates this for Filigree. Now, we recognize our BERDE certification for the building already allows our unit owners to reap the benefits of sustainable design and construction. But we wanted to go beyond this. We wanted to challenge the considerations in place for health and well-being for a more holistic approach. And this is why we pursued the PHILGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings for the first tower of Botanica Nature Residences. Primarily, this is part of our commitment to continuously elevate the living experience of our residents. The COVID-19 pandemic and the increased amount of time we have been spending at home all the more highlighted how our living spaces influence the quality of our health. So we believe this is the opportune time to champion more deliberate health-related standards for real estate. Botanica is in fact a BERDE pioneer project for residentials. Therefore, it was only natural for us to be very keen to participate in this pilot program as well. It is our honor to work and partner with PhilGBC once again and to contribute on how the tool can be shaped to elevate the standards for future developments, not only for our brand, of course. So with this, we hope to encourage also other developers to follow suit. So allow me to share Botanica's best practices and essentially how we fared against the health and well-being assessment. So we see sustainability and healthy living at the core of Botanica's design concept, and we challenge this in the assessment process. The core framework of the health and well-being certification considers the user's health, comfort, environment, lifestyle, and social wellness. So we drilled down on the foundations we built Botanica on, and you see how this has translated into the management of our project and ultimately the living experience of our residents. So first we look at how the project was built. No? Botanica, with its sunroofed atrium and the seamless connection to its amenities, provides our residents and all users in general abundant natural light and ventilation in our common areas and even in the hallways going to their units. Here we are showing our units that are fitted out with picture windows in the bedrooms and floor-to-ceiling ones in the common areas, again to ensure access to natural light in each space. Now, in terms of construction, we ensured the use of durable, locally sourced, and low VOC materials. The same guidelines are applied by our property management office for any repair or maintenance works and even unit fit-outs. So this ensures minimized harmful pollutants in consideration of indoor air quality. Now, it was easy to achieve points for better indoor air quality and all these requirements in creating comfortable living spaces because the project is already BERDE certified. So we also recognize the other benefits of building sustainably, like the economic advantage of energy efficient spaces, which ultimately translates into lower operating costs. We take pride with the work we do in Filigree. I can proudly say that we've been able to marry form and function in our projects with the benefits of sustainability. Now let's talk about the project's location. Having Botanica located in PhilInvest City, the only CBD with multiple green certifications from the Philippines and the US Green Building Councils, gives our residents the benefits of living in a deliberately green master planned business district. PhilInvest City's people-centric master plan is evident in the lifestyle of its citizens. You can see the residents and employees enjoy an abundance of green, open space as soon as they step out of Botanica. In fact, all of the essentials like schools and offices, a world-class hospital, and several commercial establishments are within 15 minutes at most. All these are accessible not only by cars, you can go around on a bike or even on foot. We also have strategically located terminals and our eco-loop vehicles going around key hubs within the neighborhood hourly, including Botanica, of course. Essentially, the city is an extension of our residents' backyards. The districts are connected by an elaborate green park system where people can socialize. This park system also doubles as pedestrian green paths, connecting the city from end to end, north to south, east to west, and encouraging people to walk. So given our circumstances in the past 2 years, these open spaces have become a welcome respite in the neighborhood where people can enjoy the outdoors safely. All of these really put great emphasis on mobility and the pedestrian experience in the city. So imagine a big garden interweaved within the city so people are encouraged to move and enjoy the great outdoors. And then finally, with greater focus on the project's day-to-day operations, we shed light on the policies in place that consider our users' health, lifestyle, and social wellness. With the fundamentals of what the city and the project is built on, the living experience we have envisioned for our residents comes into fruition. This, of course, would not be possible without the collaboration of a professionally run property and the estate management, both with a strong bench and established system. All within the same umbrella, there is a continuous collaboration on policies and systems established to assure our users that they're in an efficient, safe, and secure property. Philinvest City Estate has a centralized water system, underground power and communication lines, and a fiber optic telecom system, which serves the whole neighborhood, including Botanica, of course. We also have a command center providing surveillance and round the clock security and a 24/7 emergency response team in place through our partnership with Lifeline Rescue Philippines. In light of the pandemic, we employed citywide sanitation efforts and provided the hygiene support required. So I've talked about what makes the city and the project run, but I also want to touch on what makes the city grow, its community, which of course impacts our users' lifestyles and social wellness. I go back to how Philinvest City was designed to be a garden city. Aside from promoting movement in the city with our tree-lined walkways, intricate bike lanes, availability of bike parking, and of course our park system, the estate is also active in community engagement and other placemaking events. From seasonal events like Christmas festivities to regular activations like the shared zone, carless weekend activities with free workout sessions with various locators and interest groups, among others. So during the rollout of the vaccine with our LGU, we pushed to educate and raise vaccine awareness, hosted vaccination sites within the city for ease and convenience of our residents and employees. All in the same, we have also given priority in campaigning mental health awareness by hosting numerous webinars for our employees and promoting it through our regular communication to our residents. At the beginning of the pandemic, while there was a lot of changes implemented in the day-to-day operations, it was interesting how it became a litmus test on how our developments have been designed, built, and operated. We live in a time where green and sustainable are and should definitely no longer be just buzzwords, but what should be considered essential, as we recognize the impact it has on one's well-being, not only of the residents, but to all of its users. So with a stronger need for living spaces that are designed to prioritize the well-being of its users, we see the establishment of a certification tool such as this as the final seal to certifications that focus more on design. Having gone through the process, we saw several opportunities on how we could further elevate our standards in terms of property management and also its community development. Ultimately, we see that it would strengthen the commitment to approach designing, planning, and managing developments holistically. Like other developers, we are far from being perfect, but it gives us a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment to see our residents benefiting from our work, most especially today. The pandemic has definitely helped raise the awareness for healthier buildings, and we are proud to be part of the movement. Now, more than ever, we're determined to distinguish further what is truly luxurious, definitely not only in the design of our future projects, but in how we seal it with real and lasting value. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. With that, we look forward to more healthy living spaces. And again, thank you to PHILGBC.
Thank you very much, Ms. De Los Reyes. May I invite you for a few questions for the sessions for your presentation?
Sure.
So we recognize that Philinvest and Filigree really has sustainability in its core in the development as well as the projects that you are currently operating already. Um, what why did you participate in the health and well-being pilot program of the PhilGBC?
Um, so you see, not only do we really strive to deliver top-notch living spaces, but we've made it a commitment to provide the quality of life our residents deserve. So we saw the health and well-being pilot program as an opportunity to challenge that, really. This being, of course, the first certification that assessed Botanica's operational stage. No? With Botanica being a Verde Pioneer project, we were excited, of course, to work with PhilGBC on this again, as we see it being instrumental to shaping the standards for future residential developments. Now, through the process, we actually discovered that there's so much more we can do for our residents. Maria, is it okay if I also take this opportunity to share with the audience that we've actually also received our assessment. We received a
Yes,
3-star rating, exhibiting exemplary
congrats.
practice in our design and policies for health and well-being. So big thanks to PhilGBC, of course, to Ecotectonica, and a big thanks again to and congratulations to our team.
Congratulations for achieving that achievement under the tool. Since this is a pilot implementation of the tool, the building wasn't really designed to to be aligned with the requirements of the tool, and even with the existing design and operations of Botanica Nature Residences, you were able to achieve a pretty high rating under the tool. So congratulations once again. Maybe just to segue on, what inspired you to incorporate health and well-being focused programs and building attributes in Botanica Nature Residences? Since again, it's pretty impressive knowing that the tool has not yet been developed at that time when you designed and constructed the NR1.
So I guess when Botanica was conceptualized, or I guess for any of our projects at that for that matter, no, you consider the site, its environs, and the user. So with Philinvest City as its backdrop, the garden CBD that it was only fitting to embrace that and design in the same manner. Giving the users the visual and literal access to greens. And we all know that kasi that human beings innately have that desire to connect with nature. So that's really what we leaned on because that's really what we think is important. Now, and given the pandemic, the luxury of space and of course health, emphasized this all the more.
Maybe just to close the discussion, I know uh, similar experience and similar question from our previous speaker, and everyone would like to know, with among the different strategies that you were able to incorporate and were able to operate in Botanica Nature Residence Tower 1, what is one best strategy that you think had the biggest positive impact to your employees and to your unit owners in the project?
Okay. So I guess as an architect, no, I would have to say it's really how the building was designed. Churchill said this, no, we shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. And this is very, very true for Botanica. So as I described earlier, features like our sunroofed atrium, open spaces, single loaded corridors, and really the luxurious space we dedicated to all of these is unparalleled. That and how we developed that seamless connection to the outdoors really considered how our users would move about and experience the property. For Tool Botanica, we even went the extra mile and engaged a space planner to study the layout of each and every unit, considering the same. No? So yeah, again, with much bias, I would have to say it's the design. And then everything else that followed was like a very natural progression.
Thank you very much, Mr. De Los Reyes, and once again, congratulations for your health and well-being certified project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you once again to Mr. Rufino and Ms. De Los Reyes for those presentations on the health and well-being, the very first two buildings that are health and well-being certified projects in the country. So to present on the current tool, as we mentioned, our experience through the pilot implementation of the program helped us in finalizing the very first version of the tool. And since we launched the PHILGBC Health and Wellbeing Program last year during our previous Building Green, we were able to conduct consultations and implement the system through the pilot projects as we finalized the first version of the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings rating tool, which is now available online, so you can access it through healthph.org. The PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings rating tool was developed to measure, monitor, and certify the performance of projects based on social, economic, and environmental priorities that affect the health and well-being of users. For the Philippines, early in our promotion of green building, we were very deliberate in incorporating environmental, economic, as well as social priorities when building green, particularly under BERDE, which is the National Voluntary Green Building Rating System in the Philippines. We made sure to address socioeconomic priorities such as indoor environment quality, pedestrian mobility, accessibility, and even heritage conservation and promotion as priorities for green buildings in the country. And since 2018, we were already looking at how do we now shift this conversation towards a more holistic approach and expand the view of what green buildings are able to do when addressing socioeconomic priorities. And now, as part of the comprehensive set of tools that the PhilGBC has been continuously developing and is now administering for the industry, we have released the very first version of the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings rating tool. To ensure the quality of the tool, H&W was developed in line with international standards for standards development and harmonized with national and international building and environmental standards. It has undergone several revisions and consultations with PhilGBC members, with the relevant national government agencies, and even experts in the industry. The rating tool is applied to the planning and implementation of building projects. So stage one planning focuses on how you established your health and well-being focused strategies, including how you designed and constructed your building attributes, and the establishment of your policies and procedures for your building. And stage two implementation focuses on how you implemented your policies and procedures and how your project users used your building and how they benefited from your health and well-being design strategies. The tool will be applied to the whole building or even used for tenant spaces that are owned or leased within a building. And the focus of the tool is on interventions of projects and its impact to the project team, your employees who are directly involved in the planning and implementation or operations of your building, and your project end users. The core framework of H&W tool defines the different objectives and the requirements that are essential when developing a healthy and well building project. The development of credits under the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings is guided by this framework on your screen to ensure that each credit is addressing a clear sustainability target, applying to different stages of the project life cycle, providing clear requirements that may be policy, people, process, product, or performance requirements, and are addressing concerns that are specific to the project type or occupancy type when applicable or appropriate. So the first category, the health category, focuses on the physical and mental conditions of our project users. When we can protect and improve our project users' health through physical and mental health programs and through maintaining healthy spaces in the project. The health category emphasizes the need to address the health and safety of our workers and our employees throughout the project's life cycle. Other physical health considerations for this category are on the impact of our building spaces to the health of users, including requirements for healthy indoor air quality, low VOC, and microbe-free and managed indoor environments. We also want project proponents to look at the impact of how we design and operate our buildings to the mental health of our users. As mentioned by our two pilot projects earlier, we did not just focus on the building attributes, but also the programs and how you operate your buildings and its impact to your end users. So creating opportunities for restoration and relaxation in our buildings are important for the overall well-being of our project users, as well as implementing mental health programs that provide positive benefits to our projects and the people that we work with. The next category is on comfort, which focuses on the impact of our spaces to the overall comfort and well-being of our users. So projects that address these concerns ensure users are comfortable in working and living in these spaces that help and improve their overall productivity and well-being. The healthy and well-being buildings addresses a range of requirements for the comfort of users in terms of lighting, in terms of noise, and even thermal levels. It's important that we recognize the impact of our buildings to the community, including how we encourage pedestrian mobility within and through our projects by protecting them from the elements and reducing our project's contribution to urban heat island effect. In addition, well-designed spaces address the diverse physical and mental capabilities of users. We should ensure our projects allow for access to all and does not discriminate against physical and mental capability of users when moving within and even using the different spaces in our project. The lifestyle category focuses on the project's positive influence on users' physical health and nutrition. Planning and implementing projects that encourage an active lifestyle through design interventions as well as programs during operations will encourage users to move and be more physically active within and outside your projects. So you should encourage pedestrian mobility and facilitate the walkability in your project, connecting not just the different spaces within your project, but also connecting the project to the community. So positively influencing the user's health may also be achieved through reducing barriers on the availability and even affordability of healthy food choices. In addition, users will benefit from increasing food transparency and resources on healthy food information. Other lifestyle-related credits include providing hygiene support and even providing tobacco cessation support for your users. The social category focuses on providing long-term value to the community and improving the quality of life in the project. So consulting your stakeholders in your project and the community will help in identifying their social and economic priorities and help you in identifying strategies to address these priorities. So creating a strong connection with your external and internal community will help ensure the social sustainability of your projects. Being involved and connected with the community may be achieved through establishing and implementing programs and even community facilities for your local community and community organizations. In addition, strengthening this connection may be achieved by creating equal economic opportunities by removing any social and economic barriers to be employed within the project. Internally, you should also strengthen your connection with your employees by ensuring proper response during emergencies and even providing resources and support for your employees, including technical and financial resources for new parents, childcare, and even family needs. The environment category focuses on the benefits to your users when providing access to nature in the project and properly managing your resources and the materials you use in the project. So the tool rewards the continued commitment of projects to the environmental sustainability and its co-benefits to the project's users' health and well-being. Properly managing your solid waste and water effluent ensures the reduction of your employees and your users' exposure to risks and hazards. Creating restrictions to the procurement and use of materials, and even requiring the transparency of these materials used in your project will help reduce the exposure to hazardous chemicals and materials that have negative impacts to your users' health. In addition to managing resources, you should also ensure users have access to quality drinking water, opportunities for on-site food production through urban agriculture, and have access to nature. This will boost your user satisfaction and will also help in improving their physical and mental health. So as part of the release of the tool, with the use of the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings, projects may be certified by completing the formal assessment and certification process. So if your project is at the conceptual, early design, planning, or construction stages, you may register under Stage 1 Planning to demonstrate how you established your plans and put in place the building attributes and strategies that will help you achieve your targets. If your project is an existing project under operations, you must register under both Stage 1 Planning and Stage 2 Implementation to demonstrate how you established your strategies and how you were able to implement and monitor your health and well-being programs and strategies for your project users. Projects may be awarded with the equivalent rating based on the weighting that you achieved through the assessment process, and only projects that comply with the minimum system requirements who have successfully completed the certification process and achieve at least the minimum rating or a one-star rating for certification may be certified under the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings rating tool. So once again, we would like to thank NEO and PhilInvest Alabang for participating in the pilot implementation of the H&W tool. And we would like to congratulate once again the projects to NEO for 5 NEO for achieving an H&W 4 stars rating under the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings pilot version, and being the very first health and well-being certified office building under the program. We would also like to congratulate PhilInvest Alabang for the Botanica Nature Residences Tower 1 for achieving a health and well-being 3 stars rating under the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings pilot version, and being the first health and well-being certified residential building under the program. So if you would like to learn more about the program and become an H&W accredited professional, join us for the first online training for version 1 during episode 9, The Professionals, Health and Wellbeing. So you may register by scanning the QR on your screen, or you may also visit our website, philgbc.org, or contact the PhilGBC National Secretariat at BG2022@philgbc.org. So use the first version of H&W, register your project, and successfully complete the formal certification process to be one of the first H&W certified building projects in the country. Visit healthph.org to access the first version of the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings. So to continue with our agenda for this morning, we have Dr. Elizabeth David, Undersecretary of the Department of Health, to share with us some of the updates on the programs of the Department of Health.
The DOH appreciates your initiative for the Philippine Green Building Council's Building Green Conference 2022 Digital Edition. I'm glad to share with you the greener, healthier, and safe built environment for healthcare. The Philippine Development Plan provides for human security where the rights of the Filipino family and individuals, especially the poor and vulnerable, are protected and promoted through access to education, health, housing, and social protection while ensuring environmental sustainability. Every Filipino aspires to enjoy a matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay. This is Ambition Natin 2040, which is sensitive to those aspirations. The health system capacity has been substantially improved. However, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic had adverse social and economic consequences. The challenge is to muster as quick as possible an economic turnaround. Much of this depends on being able to manage the risks and transition to the new normal. The PDP has been updated to focus its strategies towards having a healthy and resilient Philippines while facilitating economic recovery. The Universal Healthcare Act provides a comprehensive framework for health system reforms where there is a shift in the provision of care from being fragmented and facility based to having a network of healthcare facilities providing comprehensive care to a Filipino family. The lessons from COVID-19 pandemic would also add to the strengthening of healthcare with the advent of telemedicine, outreach services, and even home-based care. For the health system to become climate resilient, its building blocks should be climate resilient while still aligned with the Universal Healthcare Act. The primary goal of universal healthcare is to promote equitable healthcare access. Therefore, it is critical that even during disasters, basic healthcare services should be maintained and available to everyone. The negative impact on health and environment due to greenhouse gas emissions has led to the identified essential features of modern and future health facilities, with its goal to improve climate resilience and environmental sustainability of health infrastructures. It guides the country's long-term plan towards a climate resilient future, promoting economic development while contributing to global efforts to mitigate the effects of the Earth's climate. The Department of Health, as the nation's leader in health, leads in climate smart health system. The DOH shall take the lead in the implementation of the green and safe health facility standards and guidelines. The four major components of being climate smart are for the community, primary care, hospital, and governance, contributing to the National Climate Change Action Plan of the Philippines. DOH shall undertake green and safe design principles and practices, ensure that hospitals and other health facilities develop policies and programs that mitigate carbon emissions and adapt to extreme weather events and other natural disasters, and gear towards climate smart healthcare delivery systems. The Manual of Standards for Primary Care Facilities, for example, provides different models and schematic plans for primary care facilities. Infrastructure planning, design, and construction of facilities should consider factors that would affect the users, how the structure will be used, location, and the structure itself. In building primary care facilities, it should be ensured that the principles of culture sensitivity towards the catchment population are considered, while green and resilient structures are incorporated. The following critical facility systems should be present: water supply, environmental management and sanitation, electrical, transportation, communication, and fire protection systems. Equally important is the equipment to support the services of the primary care facility. This includes basic primary care laboratory and dental equipment, the detailed lists of which is incorporated in the licensing requirements. The primary care facility also needs an ambulance, which may be shared and procured by the facility or may be acquired through a contracting agreement with a private service provider. All government instrumentalities, national and local, are mandated to adopt a whole-of-government approach towards the nation's climate resilience. With the DOH Special Provisions, Section 21 of the General Appropriations Act for fiscal year 2022, the DOH, through the Green and Safe Health Facilities Program, shall, as much as possible, promote the greening of hospitals and health facilities. This includes the improvement of energy and water efficiency and their conservation, sustainable cooling systems, and sustainable healthcare waste management in hospitals. At present, the DOH released the technical guidelines and standards for the green and safe health facilities to respond to the global call of minimizing the carbon footprint of the health sector while still continuing to provide quality health care to the people. thereby setting the minimum green and safe standards for all hospitals and other health facilities. This is through the technical assistance of the experts in the field and working with partners like the Philippine Green Building Council to promulgate green and safe health facility standards. This green manual contains performance standards for governance, energy efficiency, water efficiency, sanitation and hygiene, healthcare waste management, environmentally resilient health facility, site sustainability, material sustainability, and indoor environmental quality. The technical guidelines and standards of the green and safe or climate smart health facilities of the DOH applies to all government-owned and privately owned hospitals and other health facilities. The Green and Safe Health Facility Manual accompanies the Green Viability Assessment Tool to determine the implementation of the hospitals and other health facilities and their compliance to the green, safe, and climate resilient performance standards. To recognize the hospitals and health facilities performance, the DOH developed criteria and equivalent rating scale system through the technical assistance of green expert professionals and stakeholders. Protecting the Filipinos from health risks is one of the strategic thrusts indicated in the health sector strategy for 2023-2028. The health system shall be prepared and have the capacity for recovery and adaptation to future disasters and pandemics. One of these strategic interventions then is to build resilient and green health facilities to have health facilities and services that are safe and of high quality. With this, the following are the current initiatives from the DOH to promote resilient and green health facilities. Number one, the issuance of the first edition of the Green and Safe Health Facilities Manual. Number two, capacity building on technical guidelines and standards for green and safe health facilities, which has been done for the central office, 16 centers for health developments, 53 DOH hospitals, among others. Number three, to recognize DOH hospitals as green hospitals. Number four, the conduct of healthcare waste audit to DOH hospitals. Number five, the conduct of energy audit to DOH hospitals through the Department of Energy. Number six, DOH personnel from central office, centers for health developments, and hospitals are certified verde professionals or green professionals. And number seven, orientation on the phased implementation of the prohibition on the unnecessary use of single-use plastics in hospitals and other health facilities and DOH offices. The work towards quality, affordable, universal healthcare shall be pursued alongside stewardship of the environment and sustainable management of resources. This is being done through the DOH Health Facility Infrastructure Development Team, and the Health Facility Development Bureau is charged with the DOH technical leadership in this. The DOH, through the Health Facility Development Bureau, intends to contribute a positive impact to sustainable development and human survival through its initiatives on green and safe health facility development with the following. Number one, sustainable energy efficiency, water efficiency, and healthcare waste management. Number two, advancements for green spaces, indoor environment quality, and water sanitation and hygiene. Number three, maintain site sustainability, material sustainability, and hospital safety for zero outage status in the provision of healthcare during calamities and disasters. In order to be considered a climate-smart healthcare facility, one must make both buildings and operations more resilient, mitigate the impacts on the environment, and reduce pollution. These interventions shall save costs, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and achieve adaptation, risk reduction, and give developmental benefits. To guide the country's health facilities in realizing this model, the HFDB has developed the Philippine Health Facility Development Plan, which shall serve as the macro plan to provide policy direction and technical support in health service planning. As the country aspires to reduce the supply gaps in health facilities, there should be a concomitant goal for the development of safe, sustainable, and resilient health infrastructure. Through this, and in accordance with the universal healthcare, all Filipinos shall be guaranteed equitable access to quality and affordable healthcare. Let us continue to build health infrastructures, systems, and people that are safe and resilient. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you very much, Dr. David. As always, the PhilGBC is committed to support our national government and of course the department's priorities in promoting and implementing greener, safer, and resilient health facilities in our country. So we'll proceed with our next presentation from Mr. Jeroen van Straten, founder of Indoor Care.
Thank you very much, Mario, for the introduction. And thank you, PhilGBC, for inviting us to be able to speak at this webinar for this opportunity. To introduce indoor care, basically, what do we do and how can we help buildings create and maintain healthy buildings, healthy work environments where all the occupants benefit. Next slide, please. Yeah, basically what we will go through it. So the next slide is okay, Mario. Next slide, please. Yeah, okay. We spend most of our time indoors. Many people don't realize that the indoor environment, indoor air quality could be far worse than outdoors, up to 10, 15 times more polluted than the outdoors. On the right-hand side, you will see that, to give you a comparison, that we consume about a gallon of food every day. We drink a gallon of water every day. And indoors, we breathe in 2,700 gallons of air. So that is far more than what we eat or what we drink. So this is something that we have to really take a look at very closely. What are we actually inhaling on a daily basis inside our home, inside our car, inside our offices or buildings, schools, medical facilities? Next slide, please. These are some of the contaminants that are continuously being floating around within a indoor environment, within buildings. The pollutants that you see are coming from the outside. They're coming from sucked in by the air ventilations, by the air cons. It's going to recirculate within the indoor environment, but they also are produced within the facility itself. The first one is mold, is a very serious concern that could not only be of health concerns to the building occupants, but also to the building itself. And then we have dust particles, PM 2.5, PM 10, formaldehyde, VOC, CO2, carbon monoxide, a lot of these chemicals and pollutants that are continuously floating inside the indoor environment that will harm us if they are not being treated and not being removed within the facility. Next slide, please. Yeah, you wouldn't drink the dirty glass of water. Why would we allow ourselves to inhale dirty air? The problem is with air quality, poor or healthy, it's invisible. So you can't really see if the air you breathe is healthy or unhealthy. Sometimes, if it's really worse, you would be able to feel something in your lungs, in your system, or you can get eye irritation. But most of the time, we are unaware of what the air quality is indoors. So there's only one way to find out, and that's to measure it with proper tools and equipments that we provide. Next slide, please. Here are some of the pollutants again that are floating around. Dust particles, PM 2.5 is especially one we need to focus on. There was just an article that came out recently, just a day or two ago, where PM 2.5 is directly linked to cancer. PM 2.5 is a fine dust particle. It's 30 times finer than a human hair. It will not be rejected by our system. Even if you wear a face mask, it will not be rejected. It is so fine, it will directly enter into our bloodstream, into our systems, and causing a lot of damage inside our bodies. Bacteria and viruses, of course. Now we have the COVID-19 scare that goes around, but even regular cough and cold is a concern indoors, where buildings are sealed off, air circulation is happening, the fresh air intake might not be up to standard. So you're breathing in continuously chemicals as well, such as formaldehyde and VOCs. They come from carpets, from paint, from furnitures. So if we don't take care of the indoor environment, we continuously inhale them. And as the World Health Organization calls air pollution, it's a silent killer. Next slide, please. Some of the effects are here, health effects. We have some short-term effects that we might not realize it. When we have an eye irritation or we have a little bit of a headache, we cough, we don't necessarily make the connection, make the link to the indoor air quality that we're breathing. Long-term health effects is really serious, and we're talking about cardiovascular diseases, respiratory illnesses, up to cancer, but also mental well-being is something that is affecting us on a daily basis. And the pandemic introduced basically the world into mental health, mental well-being for employees. And air quality is directly linked to our mental well-being as well. Next slide, please. Because here you can see there is a health concern connecting mental well-being to the indoor environment, indoor air quality that we breathe. It can give anxiety, depression, and stress if not being taken care of. The indoor environment will decrease the well-being of your employees, of your students, of the building occupants, of the patients in hospitals. The higher the pollution that there is indoors, the more difficult it is for us to function properly. And the amount of pollution that we inhale during the day will also affect our sleep at night, right? So it is basically a 24-hour concern. The air quality that we breathe inside the office is unhealthy or inside the building is unhealthy. It starts to affect us short-term, long-term, over a long period of time. Sleeping disorder will come in as well, and mental well-being is affected, including employee productivity, employee well-beings and comfort. Next slide, please. On the right-hand side, you can see again the parameters that are the pollutants that are inside any indoor environment. And as you can see, there is also illumination and sound, because if you have a bad lighting or if it's a noisy environment, it will also affect our overall well-being. And we could actually link the indoor pollutants that we inhale, if they are poor, if they are healthy, to our level of productivity, our performance, our comfort, our mental health. And if there is a high pollutant inside, we will see an increase in allergy risk. Asthma can be triggered, of course, of worse, it can lead to cancer. Virus as well. COVID-19 can grow in a certain indoor environment. It can spread faster than in other environments. If our environment is healthy, it has a less chance to multiply itself and a less chance to float around the indoor environment. Next slide, please. So here is actually what indoor care has done for all the 7 NEO buildings. Raymond Rufino talked about it lengthily in his presentation, the importance of the building health, outdoor green building health, but also the structure of the building, including the well-being of the building occupants. Now, with what we have done for all the 7 NEO buildings is that they partnered with indoor care, and we placed bipolar ionization inside the lobbies, inside the main lobby and elevators and all the lift areas. Bipolar ionization removes COVID-19 airborne. It removes the oxygen from the cells, and COVID-19 can no longer be reproduced. It also removes particles and pollutants from within the air. So it reduces particulate matters, dust particles, VOC, formaldehyde, all the indoor pollutants that affect our well-being. It will be canceled out by bipolar ionization. We have applied nano antimicrobial coating to all the touchable areas in the lobbies, in the elevators. If you have any virus or any bacteria on your hands, it will immediately die on the spot on all the sprayed areas that we have applied on the touchable areas in the NEO buildings. We do an annual indoor air quality assessment as well, covering all the parameters, all the pollutants that I have mentioned a while ago. We do a building mold inspection and mold air analysis in the building as well, for the health of the building and for the health of the building occupants. Because mold is airborne. Mold travels through the air. It can be visible in an area, but it floats around using the airflow. It can attach itself to tiny dust particles. So it can float from one area to the next, from floors actually. So it can damage your structure in the building, and of course it's a very important health hazard that we need to address for the well-being of your building occupants. Next slide, please. This is one of our clients. This is a mental health institution called Mind You that has indoor care in place in their office. On the left-hand side, you can see a reading of dust particles, of VOC, of chemicals, VOCs and formaldehydes. And as you can see, they were reaching unhealthy levels at some of the parameters, even exceeding 4 or 5 or 6 times the acceptable limit. We follow Singapore standard because the Philippines doesn't really have a standard to follow. So we follow Singapore standard since it's the closest to the Philippines. And after we installed our solution under indoor care, within 2 or 3 days, you will see a decrease in all the pollutants. The indoor environment was made healthy with our solutions. And up to this day, these indoor spaces that have indoor care in place are all healthy. All the pollutants have been removed. Everything has been controlled. We monitor this on a daily basis with air quality monitoring devices, so we can see how the indoor air quality, indoor environment of our clients is at the moment. So we can do this for buildings, we can do this for individual offices as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, the Green Building Council is what I'm presenting it for, but we have been doing so many indoor air quality assessments over the years, and we created indoor care to really help the end user, the clients of the buildings, the tenants, the employees, to be able to breathe healthy air. And the pandemic put the indoor environment on the foreground, and we can really see a shift of companies and organizations that are moving into creating healthy work environments, healthy schools, healthy medical facilities. If you go into a hospital, it doesn't mean that the air is clean. We have done a lot of assessments in various parts of the country and also in countries abroad where the indoor environment is not as healthy as it should be. So we are seeing that the world is moving forward, and I'm happy to see also here that why they invited us, that the Green Building Council is also moving forward and paying attention to the importance of healthy indoor air environment. So that will be the new trend that we have to look after, and we have to look after after each other. What Raymond also said, it's not only the building, it's not only the tenant, it's everybody that needs to do their share to create and maintain healthy indoor workspaces and living spaces. Next slide, please. So this brings me to the end. If there's any questions from the audience or from Mario, please let me know, or you can reach out anytime that if you want another presentation for your building or company. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sharon. So we'll be taking questions from our participants, and we'll be opening the floor later after the next presentation. So
Okay.
we'll invite you again for our open forum after the next
Thanks very much.
presentation. So if you have questions, please send them in through the question box through the GoToWebinar panel. For our speakers, again, we'll be addressing these questions to both of our speakers for the next two presentations during the open forum at the end. So we'll proceed with the next presentation. We have Ms. Veronica Villanueva to present on lighting design.
Good day, this is Veronica Villanueva. I would like to thank PHILGBC for this opportunity to shed some light on lighting. Lighting has many definitions, but for this webinar, allow me to define lighting as the use of artificial light fixtures for practical and aesthetic purposes. Glare as too much light caused by intense light and intense contrast of light and dark, which may cause impaired visual performance, headache, and migraine. Other effects, inadequate lighting may result in poor mental performance, making it harder for occupants to focus on the task at hand. Lighting Singapore says that improper lighting can lead to insomnia, depression, eye disorder, migraine, and headache. Lighting affects the circadian rhythm, which may lead to improper sleep pattern and cardiovascular disease. More on the circadian rhythm in a while. But for now, I would like to discuss a little bit about the illuminance and luminance. Illuminance is light that hits when it hits the surface. So this can be measured, but luminance, on the other hand, depends on the person who sees the light. So it varies from person to person. The more senior have difficulty visually later on. So again, the circadian rhythm is the 24-hour internal clock of the body. So different times of the day, our bodies changes. So at 2:30 p.m. is the most best coordination. At 3:30 is the fastest reaction time. And at 6 p.m., our body starts to change and starts to slow down. At 9 p.m., body signals that it's almost time to sleep. Another study shows that night shift workers are almost twice as likely to develop breast cancer as day shift workers due to exposure of light at night. Again, the circadian rhythm, exposure to light during sleep can negatively impact the circadian rhythm, which can impair sleep and contribute to insomnia, depression, and cardiovascular disease. So a little bit about quality of light, a few terminologies. We have the CRI, color rendering index, which this is the accuracy of the light fixture to reproduce the colors of the object it illuminates. So here on the left is samples of the effects of CRI, good CRI. The higher the number, the better the CRI, the better the quality of the light. So fluorescent lamp normally has a CRI of 80, so this is how it looks like. So light fixtures varies on CRI. Sometimes the better the CRI, it has a little bit of cost. It's a little bit more expensive. So we have the CCT, or correlated color temperature, describes the appearance of the light emitted by a fixture. Commonly available in the market po is 2,700K to 6,500K. So 2,700K is what they call the warmer, and then the 6,500K, that's more white, or daylight is how people call it. So this is the lux level. Lux is unit of measure po. Direct illumination of our brightness on a surface, that's the system's international unit of illuminance per square meter. So I want us to focus on the classroom. Recommended lux level is 300. For laboratory, it is 500 lux. These recommendations come from the IES, the Illuminating Engineering Society. Since this is a case study that I'm doing, this is classroom number 1, wherein this is a drafting room. And then for a drafting room, since it's more detailed work, the recommendation is 400 to 500 lux. But upon checking po, taking the measurements for this classroom, the high is only at 265, mid-range is only 179, and low at 880. So it's quite low for the task being performed in this lighting. So it's a little bit inadequate lighting po. So another classroom po, this is classroom number 2. This is a lecture room. The recommendation for this one is 250 to 400 lux. But upon taking measurements, the lux level here is 1,000 lux. Mid is 770 and 385. So the light here is intense. And it's such a waste of electricity. So you can just imagine how it's like doing the task in these two different types of environment. So there's a few don'ts that I would like to share. Don't compensate for uneven lighting by replacing the light fixtures with a more powerful light. That will not work. That will only create glare. As you can see here, we have on the right side too much light, and then next to it is a shadow, and then again light, and then shadow again. So that doesn't work. It's also not pleasing or pleasant to the eyes. Don't select light fixtures based only on cost and aesthetics. Know the specs of the lamp. So sometimes it has the better kind of quality of lamp does demand a few more cost. Avoid using lights that are too bright. It can create glare and wash out the wall finish. Do not rely solely on artificial lighting. Make the most of natural light. You do's. Know what you are lighting, the purpose of the space, who are the users, and design based on these information. Critical areas like stairs and exits must be lit properly. Layering, combining light fixtures like for task lighting, for accent, and for ambient lighting to create interest in a space. Consider the proper CCT and always use lights with good CRI for all spaces. Position light fixtures properly to reduce glare. Light pollution, result of improper lighting design wherein artificial light shines onto areas upward into the sky and other areas where it is not intended. Glare, light which reflects on a surface and scatters and can cause visual problems because of the intense contrast between light and dark areas. So one point in time, I'm sure we have experienced something similar to this. So light cluster, result of poor light placement creating a contrast that interferes with night vision. If strong enough, can throw off natural nocturnal system of animals. So this lighting is really intense. It really forms a big cluster of light. So this is the urban sky glow. It's like a dome cover of light above city areas. So these are lights from city streets that bounce back from the atmosphere. So sometimes we see this and we say, wow, looks nice. But the International Dark Sky Association says, let's turn off the lights, reduce energy, reduce light pollution, save money, and protect the environment. After all, light pollution affects all of us, affects wildlife, health, energy consumption, heritage, and of course safety as well. So these are some of the wildlife affected by light pollution. We have birds, frogs, baby sea turtles, bats. We have insects like butterfly and the fireflies. So there are laws against light pollution. 19 states enacted the so-called dark skies legislation to promote energy conservation, public safety, aesthetic interest, and astronomical research. So aside from the US, there are other countries like Croatia, France, India, and Korea that have laws against light pollution. Light pollution reduction. There are methods to evaluate whether the fixture is helping to reduce light pollution, we have the bug rating, which has backlight, uplight, and glare. And then from here, we have samples of light fixtures. This one, the left side, is very bad because it lights up everything. So the second one is still bad because the cutoff is small compared to what it is illuminating. This one is better. It is half, the cutoff is half. But the one on the left is the best because it only lights up what needs to be lit. So what can we see when we say no to light pollution? So this is a project that we did. We just wanted to light what was needed and without interfering with the Manila Bay sunset. So when we did the mock-up, you can see that we lit the stairs and it looks like it's glare because there's a big contrast. It's only, these are the only lights. What I like about this is that we did not create any sky globe. So you can still see the moon and the stars up in the sky. Yes, po, that's the moon. So when you put in all the other light fixtures, it evens out the lights. So it doesn't create so much of a glare anymore. It's not, doesn't look like it's glare. So in conclusion, consider the users, the purpose of the space, proper lux level, CCT, CRI in your lighting designs. Improper lighting affects our circadian rhythm and health of the occupants as well. Please be sensitive to the well-being of the occupants of the space we are designing for. So again, the circadian rhythm, just to give us an idea of how our body works po. Don't select light fixtures based on aesthetics and cost alone. Consider the durability and quality of the light as well. Light pollution affects the ecosystem. Let's help reduce light pollution. My references. So let's turn out the lights and turn up the stars. Thank you very much po, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Ms. Villanueva. So we'll proceed with the open forum. So may I invite back our speakers, Mr. Van Straten and Ms. Villanueva, to turn on your cameras and join us for the open forum for this episode. And as I mentioned earlier, you may send your questions for our speakers using the question box in the GoToWebinar panel. Please include to whom you are addressing your question to, so we can properly facilitate the questions for our speakers. Let me start with your own for the questions here in our open forum. In terms of new buildings, what do you think are primary considerations that decision makers should be aware of to ensure indoor air quality in their projects?
Good question, Mario. Thank you for that. Air circulation, we see a lot of buildings that are sealed off. If buildings are sealed off, if fresh air cannot come in, if you see a buildup of indoor pollutants that cannot be removed without, without artificial removal, like air purifiers or cleaners or bipolar ionization systems. But the concern is if no fresh air can come in, you see a rise in CO2 levels. And that is also very critical for the well-being of the employees, is fresh air, number one. I think the building structures that we come across, what Raymond also said, it's so important to look at the building itself. The mold inspection, mold analysis is something that we should look at. We are in a high humidity country where mold is inevitable most of the times, right? So, but it can be detected early, and there can be measures taken. So yeah, that has to be something to look at from the start. The building materials used, the quality of materials, so to prevent mold formation from happening. Basically, those two are the most critical ones that I could quickly think of.
Thank you very much, Jeroen. How about you, Ms. Veronica? Since again, for new buildings, I think there are opportunities for us to incorporate building attributes, what should new projects incorporate to ensure the lighting quality within building spaces, indoor spaces?
Yes, okay. You can hear me now. Ano, naka-unmute na po. Okay. First of all, again, like I mentioned po, is you have to consider the users, who are the users, and then design from there. And then yung space, what is the purpose of the space? Like you notice, in my case study, we have 2 classrooms, and one classroom needed more lighting than the other because the activity is a little bit more detailed than compared to the other one. So those are some of the things to consider. And then, also, to be able to conserve energy, sometimes you don't need all the lights to be switched on. So proper control is also good to consider. So also to save electricity and ano po. And then also yung burning hours, also you'll be able to save the burning hours of the light if you don't need to switch on everything at the same time. Thank you po.
Thank you. I think similar to what Mr. Raymond Rufino mentioned earlier, um, existing buildings encounter different challenges from new projects. So on the other hand, from your answers earlier, what do you think existing buildings who are already under operations should be considering to ensure that they improve their operations? Maybe I can start again with you, Yaron, in terms of indoor air quality. What can existing buildings do to improve their indoor air quality?
Yeah, well, yeah, what we do a lot now is is air flushing. Air flush out is the removal of indoor pollutants that are created by construction and fit out prior to turning over the site to the end user, to the tenant. So um, during construction, a lot of dust particles get created. A lot of chemicals get introduced from the materials used by the contractor for fit out as well. And these are very harmful pollutants. We see readings, pre-readings after fit out of up to 500 times exceeding acceptable Singapore standard limits. So it is really, really unhealthy. And Raymond also said, if you don't measure it, you wouldn't really realize it. You wouldn't really know it because it's invisible. Most of the time, you can't smell it also. But it's very dangerous, these particles and pollutants. So the first service that we provide is air flushing, where within 24 hours or 48 hours, we remove all the dust particles and chemicals left behind fit outs by use of industrial HEPA filters, HEPA scrubbers. They are very large industrial equipment. So after that, you can turn over the space healthy to the tenant. It's free of any contaminants. We do an after reading as well, following the Singapore standard as well. So then your office space or your indoor environment is healthy, and then you have to keep it healthy, right? So as suggested, also annual indoor environment assessment, because as Veronica is saying, light plays a big part as well in the well-being of the occupants. We do illumination tests as well for our clients, where we give recommendations if it falls below or over the acceptable limits for lighting. And sound is important as well. Noise pollution is as bad as light pollution as well. Indoor environment, we have to look at the overall, not just air quality, but we see a lot of our clients also, they don't have enough understanding of what these pollutants are, and that is where the concern really is, that the end user wants to only measure a few parameters and not the whole spec of pollutants that we would recommend. Either it's for cost savings or just for lack of understanding. And that has to change, right? For the well-being of all the building occupants, wherever you are, a student, an employee, a patient in the hospital, air quality assessment is very important, and then make changes according to our recommendations, and we can help you with that.
And maybe just as a follow-up, when you mentioned considerations for building spaces, Mr. George Michon here mentioned on humidity levels for naturally ventilated spaces? Are there specific concerns when we're looking at naturally ventilated indoor spaces, and what are maintained humidity levels within these spaces that you consider?
Yeah,
Hero?
yeah. I mean, if it naturally ventilate, ventilation is very important to for mold not to be able to grow or to multiply itself. But if ventilation is not possible in some of the areas or buildings, then we will suggest always a dehumidifier to help and to reduce the humidity level to healthy levels.
Thank you very much. Maybe going back to you, Veronica, in terms, same question in terms of existing buildings. What are, I think, maybe low-hanging fruits that existing buildings can address to improve their lighting quality within these spaces?
Yeah, I agree with ano po, no, the one was mentioned earlier, the effects of pollutants. There's really a lack of awareness, and the same thing with lights. Sometimes we think that as long as it's illuminated, it's good enough. We're not considering the activity or what's the ano purpose po, no. You remember the picture I showed earlier. We were trying to address the unevenness of the lighting in one of the. That's a real project that we were trying to do. So. Again, I mentioned earlier that trying to get a more intense light doesn't really work. You really have to want to even out the lighting in the space. So sometimes with lighting, you do need to remove or replace some of the fixtures with better ones, more energy efficient, better performing lights. It's sometimes also you need to change the location of the lights. Those are some of the things that needs to be done, but it's better in the long run to do these things again for the for the comfort and the performance of the occupants.
Thank you, Ms. Veronica. In terms of long-term implementation, both of you already mentioned about the operations of buildings, but what are common issues have you encountered in maybe your clients or the projects that you've worked with already? Common issues that you've seen buildings in terms of their operations to ensure long-term performance of their buildings, and how were you able to overcome these issues and help your clients in overcoming these challenges? Yaron, maybe I can start with you again.
Yeah, well, one of the solutions that we also provide to our clients that is also part of our indoor care total solution is bipolar ionization that we install inside buildings, aircon systems. Bipolar ionization also reduces the formation of mold within the ducting and within your office spaces as well. So if we can keep the ducting clean, so the air that comes out is clean as well, and it goes after mold formations. So that is one way of reducing virus, bacteria, and mold and other indoor pollutants is to have bipolar ionization installed within your ducting systems. So that is one we do for buildings, but if it comes for office spaces itself, yeah, we come across a lot of concerns. Um, Dust particles, formaldehyde, VOCs, a lot of chemicals are floating around, and we see these readings in Manila, but also in the provinces. It doesn't mean necessarily that your building in the province has cleaner air indoors, right? So that's also a misconception that people might have. Or a new building, a newly designed building with beautifully designed building, it doesn't mean that the indoor environment is healthy. We have done so many assessments over the years where one of the largest tech companies that we all use on a daily basis, we've done the assessments indoors and the indoor air quality is unhealthy. So yeah, if you need to measure it and then we can take action, and we are almost always be able to improve the indoor environment for the building occupants.
Thank you, Yaron. Going to you, Veronica, same questions. How do you ensure that long-term implementation of the strategies during the operations of projects? And what are common issues that you've
Okay.
encountered with your clients and how you've overcome them?
Okay. For me, there's a lack of awareness, and cost, because sometimes good fixtures, as mentioned earlier, they do cost a little bit more. Pero what I do is like what was mentioned from earlier, is that to take measurements, really take measurements and show the client, because that's the only way that you can prove that, you know, there's a need for something, there's a need for improvement, there's a need for change. You have to have a baseline. So that's what I do. I take the measurements, and then I show the client that this is the results, and then this is the recommended level, and then from there, some of them do, but some of them say it's expensive, but at least they know. They know what needs to be done. Maybe in time they will address it.
You mentioned recommended level. One of our audience member again asked from George Mission, what is the light loss factor that you use in your lighting design based on your experience, and how do you address this?
It depends po again on the purpose of the space. Again, you notice my two case studies earlier. I have two classrooms. They're both classrooms, but one is for drafting and the other one is for lecture. So the one for drafting needs more light than the one for lecture. So it depends po. It depends on the space po. If it's a lobby, the color temperature is different and the lux level is a little. It's not as high as classrooms po. Depends po. And then again, who are the users po?
Thank you. In terms of now that we've released the new health and well-being tool for buildings, we hope that more projects will now understand health and well-being and its importance in buildings, and even undergo certification. As you mentioned, testing, verification of performance is important for buildings. How can you support projects in undergoing the assessment? What type of documentations or standards are your services or your products in line with, so that you can support projects that are undergoing assessment? Maybe you can start with you, Ron.
If it comes to indoor air quality assessments, we are also registered with and approved by DOLE to do assessments for workplace environment. If clients want that, and we have. We follow LEED and WELL standards or ASHRAE standard for any of our other assessments that we do within the building. We get contacted by these consultants to perform our measurements and our tools that we bring in. So we always give a full reporting of the indoor environment before and after assessment. We show them the before reading and an after reading of the various parameters that we assess. And there's always a witness of the client present to ensure that what we do and the measurements that we show are correct.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Veronica, how about you?
For me, Jerome, I also take measurements. I took lux meter readings for my two case studies, just to be able to compare po. And then I do simulation, because I can't immediately take measurements after, because it's still a proposal. So what I do is I do the simulation, and then I show them how to evenly distribute the light. And then by changing the fixtures, this is the simulation. If I add fixtures, we'll be able to achieve this lux level needed.
Thank you very much. Maybe just to wrap up our discussion, maybe I'll ask from both of you, what are your parting words in terms of how decision makers should be prioritizing indoor environment quality for their project? Yaron?
Yeah, it should really be number one, because we feel for the end user, for the building occupants. We do assessments really on a daily basis, and I think it's a level of knowledge and understanding is not there. They can see that the indoor environment is unhealthy, but they don't really understand how it is linked to our body, how it can affect our well-being, our comfort, our brain activity, mental health is all related to the indoor environment that we breathe in, that we are present in, including light and sound. It's everything. So I think the awareness and human resources departments, I would like them to understand more. Sometimes if it's about an office, we get the inquiry coming from a health and safety officer who doesn't understand about indoor air quality in the environment. So we're talking to people, facility manager, safety, health and safety manager, who doesn't understand what we are doing, right? So that is the concern that we have, and the road that we have to follow. Sometimes it is they introduce us to the wrong people to ask for these indoor environment assessments. So that is what we have to deal with on a daily basis, which is it's a concern. Education is very important. That's what you're doing now is very important to create the awareness and to let the public understand how important indoor air quality is to keep it healthy and safe. Maybe Veronica, I think we're going to take over. He's not here anymore, Mario. How
Mario,
about you?
How about you, Veronica? Maybe a
yes,
final word on how.
yes, okay. Thank you very much.
I apologies for that. I encountered a bit of like.
Yeah, I know that's normal. It's fine. It's fine. Very understandable. I experienced that too. Okay. Again, I also echo the awareness, the need for awareness, and then the need for assessment. And then for lighting, consider the users, consider the purpose of the space, and then don't just buy based on aesthetics and cost, because people, they see the light fixture, it's nice, but they don't really understand what type of lamp is it. Is it too yellow? Yung nga sabi po nila, yellow. Is it too white? Or consider those things, not just aesthetics and not just cost po. Also consider the effects. Sometimes it's really worth it to invest in good quality material, good quality lights. Yun lang po. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Veronica and Yaron, for joining me in this open forum. Again, if our participants today have further questions for our speakers, please reach out to us through BG2022 at PHILGBC.org so we can coordinate with our speakers even after the events. Thank you both once again.
Thank you very much, Mario, for having us.
Much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So thank you once again for all of our speakers for this episode. Mr. Raymond Rufino of NEO, Ms. Apple de los Reyes of PhilInvest Alabang, Undersecretary Lilibeth David of the Department of Health, Mr. Jeroen Van Straten of Indoor Care, and Ms. Veronica Villanueva. This afternoon, for episode 8, The Circularity, we will showcase best practices and strategies on resource efficiency and management with a particular focus on principles that enable circularity. So presentations will be geared towards enabling the building industry stakeholders to integrate and utilize circularity strategies and practices in building projects. And tomorrow, episode 9, The Professionals for Health and Wellbeing, this will be our first online training for the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings version 1. So we will be hosting the training to provide individuals with a background on health and well-being in buildings and an in-depth discussion on requirements and processes for the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings version 1. So please scan the QR codes for each of the episodes to register or contact the PhilGBC National Secretariat through BG2022 at philgbc.org for more information. So to officially close this episode, we have Ms. Audrey Belpo, member of the Board of Trustees of the PhilGBC and Managing Director of World Home Depot. Ms. Po?
Hello, everyone. Firstly, I would like to start by thanking you all participants of episode 7, the health and well-being, as part of the Building Green Conference 2022. Thank you to all of our speakers for this episode and for sharing your insights on health and well-being for buildings. For the pilot projects for the health and well-being tool, Mr. Raymond Rufino of NEO and Ms. Apple de los Reyes of PhilInvest Alabang Incorporated. Undersecretary Lilibeth David of the Department of Health for sharing the department's program to promote green, healthy, and safe facilities. Mr. Rowan Van Straten of Indoor Care, and IAQ Philippines for sharing the importance of indoor air quality in buildings, and Ms. Veronica Villanueva for sharing strategies for lighting design. Thank you to NEO and PhilInvest Alabang Incorporated for participating in the pilot implementation of the PhilGBC Health and Well-being for Buildings, and congratulations for your health and well-being certified projects, 5 NEO and Botanica Nature Residences Tower 1. We hope their work inspire you to prioritize the health and well-being of your employees and users in the design, construction, and operations of your project. We encourage you to engage your product suppliers and service providers that can help in improving the health and well-being of your users. Lastly, we invite you to use the very first version of the PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing for Buildings rating tool. Register your project and successfully complete the health and well-being certification process to become a PhilGBC Health and Wellbeing certified project. Visit healthph.org for more information. Again, thank you to our Building Green 2022 sponsors and your sustained support. To our gold strategic partners, NEO, Aboitiz Infracapital Economic Estates, City Homes Builders and Development Incorporated, our silver strategic partners, Wall Vision Corporation, Daikin Air Conditioning Philippines Incorporated, First Balfour Incorporated, and our bronze strategic partners, Monocrete Construction Philippines Incorporated, Botanica Nature Residences, PhilInvest City, PFPD Asia, AGC Asia Pacific Private Limited, and Dayton Incorporated. Join us in our upcoming episodes, the episode 8, the circularity, this afternoon at 1:30 p.m. and episode 9, the professionals, health and well-being on Thursday and Friday, September 15 and 16, 2022 at 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Visit philgbc.org for more information or contact the PhilGBC National Secretariat at BG2022 at philgbc.org. Once again, thank you to all for your participation in this morning's episode, The Health and Wellbeing. See you again online this afternoon, and happy World Green Building Week.